So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddy from Syracuse.
The Heel to Face podcast, Reborn, is back for week number 2. We're leading into Money in the Bank this upcoming Sunday. We're less than 8 days away from AEW's Double or Nothing inaugural pay-per-view. We're joined, as always, with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements and Dustin Sadek. You can find him on Twitter at Qstown Collect, on Instagram at Qstown Collector. You can find my guy next to me on Twitter at Icebreaker21, and myself and both Instagram and Twitter at KRock Jared. We've got a lot to get to this week's edition of the show. Like I said, Money in the Bank this upcoming week. So without further ado, let's get this show underway. Let's start off with a few thank yous Dustin's wanted to throw our way to start the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We were so busy. We were so excited for the new show and launch of the new logo, all the new platforms. I absolutely forgot to thank our good brother Hasbras on Instagram. He's actually the one that designed and created the logo for us. Also, as we've begun to get bigger and pick up steam with this podcast, good friend on Instagram, Nerdy Collector, he actually shouted you out. He's another one on Instagram. He gave us a great review. Good friend of us, good friend of the show. So thank you for the really kind words, and thank you for listening, man. We definitely appreciate you.
So, as we mentioned, the show is in week number 2 of our relaunch. We're on iTunes, or we should be on iTunes pretty certain in a short period of time. I think got to collect up a little bit of a library there. But either way, we're immediately on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean, the traditional Spreaker that we were on before, as well as Google Play. And, of course, if you're watching us, you know that we are on YouTube. So a very big week in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off with what Brandon brought to my attention earlier this week. Near and dear to my heart, the Pyro might be returning with the Fox deal and WWE coming this upcoming fall.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think WWE needs this. I mean, honestly, growing up as a kid, I've talked about this numerous times. We both have. You know, it's the big thing. I like to, when I used to tune in at 9 o'clock, when it was 9 o'clock, a 2-hour show back in the day, you get the first thing you see is the fireworks, the pyro. That, to me, it just gave the show a little extra kick. I mean, honestly, with certain entrances like, we'll say like Brock Lesnar, Kane. When Kane didn't have pyro, it wasn't the same effect. So
no, Kane is that's part of the show, and it's kind of funny to me because WWE before they got rid of pyro, they were the big deal on advertising that WWE shows, because they would always Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, when they're always now in the mainstream trying to advertise WWE to these larger audiences, and they say it's a sporting event mixed with a rock concert, and they'd always highlight that they had the pyro. We got sporting event, but we also got the fireworks, and it's kind of funny because that was something that they, took a lot of joy and a lot of pride in showing that they had, and then they took it away. But they also came out with the true story of WrestleMania DVD, if you don't remember, where I think the movie ended where they all said that every WrestleMania on the 10s should be at Madison Square Garden, because they talked about how WrestleMania 1, 10, 20 were all at Madison Square Garden, and I believe that came out in the year 2012, and following the next year they had WrestleMania in New York City 29,
yeah, of course,
and then didn't have 30 at Madison Square Garden and just scrapped that tradition. So they obviously say some things and then backtrack on them not too far later. But the point is, pyro is a huge part of the show, and I'm even fine with it not being a part of everybody's entrances or even to the extent of having large amounts of it. I went to New Japan Wrestling at Madison Square Garden, and you guys might see if you watch even a little bit of Ring of Honor, but they have the 90s style WWE pyro, coming up from like the sparks from above the ring. That's fine. It's something to just show that this is the show, that the pre-show has ended. This is our show.
Well, we're at the peak of nostalgia, too.
Yeah.
Like, our generation loves nostalgia. So the same thing you said, Raw's War, that big opening, that huge opening, it almost signifies the start of something special. So to bring that back and bring it around, it has a good feel. Plus, if you're in-house, you know what I mean? You're getting a little more for your money to be in-house and see that show. So you can't go wrong with them.
It's part of the entertainment. Honestly, growing up, that was the thing. As soon as you turned it on, boom, it was on there. The Raw's War, I love the nostalgia stuff. I was watching the Dark Side of the Ring. So I was watching some of that, and the Fabulous Moolah that just came out. That was pretty good. I don't know. Did you see it yet?
I have not got to see that one, so it's probably on the agenda for tonight.
No, that's definitely good when it talks about the whole thing that happened last year with WWE backtracking on the event or the Women's Battle Royal being named after the Fabulous Moolah. Kind of funny.
So they didn't shy away from it.
No, they talked.
Okay.
No, that's what the whole show was pretty much about. And it's kind of funny that they brought up that none of that really was brought. And I noticed myself, too, that I never heard a lot about it when it comes to the Fabulous Moolah before that match was to be named the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal.
Yeah, it was interesting timing, honestly. I was like, so there's a match named after her, and then stuff
Then
comes out.
immediately all this stuff comes out.
We weren't there. We weren't in what was it, Moolah Road or Moolah Lane? She had like her home, like she had a complex.
She's got her own street sign named after her, which I actually am going to be looking up real soon so I can go steal it, because I'm surprised somebody hasn't stolen it yet. The street sign that says Moolah Lane or whatever.
I'm surprised they haven't. I mean, imagine that put in your man cave. That'd be pretty cool.
I want to kind of go back to what we were just talking about with the pyro for a second. And when you brought that up to me earlier this week, I started to notice a few things, and I wanted to kind of maybe bring it to your guys' attention. And this is kind of added to the laziness of WWE and the whole set design. Is it just me, or does Raw and SmackDown no longer even have beginnings to the show? I mean, entrance videos. I can't tell you the last time that Raw or SmackDown opened up with their opening video. It used to be a special occasion. I remember watching Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, 5 or 6 years ago, and it was kind of like a special occasion if after the opening, WWE, whatever they call it, the card, that shows the WWE now, then, and forever. After that, if they open up right to the crowd, it meant something special. It means somebody good was going to come out right away. But now I feel that every show opens up with that. No longer do we have even the Raw or SmackDown video package.
They used to do it, and recently they would still occasionally, but in recent memory, I can't remember.
The last
but
time
even
you watched Raw, that it opened up with the Raw video.
10 minutes before. So whatever show was on Raw, before Raw kicked off, during that commercial segment, they'd cut to the live crowd,
which was cool.
Do a quick pan, do a hype, and then cut back and finish the last remaining 10 minutes of the show before Raw went on the air.
Where is
so
that?
almost like a pre-hype.
Exactly. And I kind of missed the intro package.
That video, that video I'm talking
package.
about, the one that goes back to the 90s that we used to always love, with the Stone Cold walking through the fiery barn with this ring flaming behind him.
I will say this.
To Union Underground when they changed it up in the Eric Bischoff era. But either way, I haven't seen a SmackDown or Raw.
NXT does it. NXT does do it still.
Well,
so out of
NXT
all brands,
has like a hype video package.
They do.
It's
It's a Five Finger Death Punch song. That's their new It's a Five Finger Death Punch song. It's pretty good.
It's just kind of strange that I haven't even seen that. I don't know if that's just to combat the fact that they realize that they don't have pyro, so it's just a different way to open the show. Because when they do have the video, and then they just show the crowd, like you say, let's watch Money in the Bank this upcoming week. After it says WWE presents Money in the Bank. And then they kind of just show the crowd, and we're so used to, even though it's been years now without pyro, it just seems like such a dull after they come out of that video and show the crowd and there's nothing. So I think maybe that's a way of kind of masking that they don't have pyro, to immediately when Raw hits the air, it's like, here comes the money, and then Shane McMahon's coming out, or Roman Reigns' music, or Vince McMahon's music. It's just to kind of get us off, like to have that opening, because instead of panning the crowd with just the Raw music and no pyro, they immediately like, well, maybe people won't notice that there's not pyro if we immediately cut to an entrance. Because I remember that would be the one time. I remember they skipped pyro a few times. I went to a SmackDown maybe 4 or 5 years ago where they skipped the pyro, because instead of having the pyro in the entrance video, they skipped right to Shane McMahon's music and he was coming out. That was unique at that time. Or if, you're watching Raw, they skip right to maybe the night after WrestleMania.
And that could have to do with venue size. That might not even be, you know what I mean? Whether they're set up to do pyros in that size of venue. They skipped it for certain things, you're right, but it was a very unique circumstance to not have that.
I feel like they saved it for WrestleMania, honestly, because we watch the whole pyro budget on WrestleManias every year. That's what.
Do you guys even know? I don't. And I'm just going to throw this out there because I actually did know this, and a lot of people might not know this because we talk about the lack of uniqueness when it comes to set design. Did you even know that Raw and SmackDown actually have, or supposed to have, different sets?
No.
They should, yeah.
Because here's the thing, because now we're so used to, let's say this past week, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown were both in London. They both obviously kept the same set the night after WrestleMania. They're both at Barclays Center. They keep the same set. But if you watch, when a Raw and a SmackDown are in different venues, they actually do have, not greatly different, but they do have different sets. Meaning, if you watch a traditional Raw, they have the video screen and they come out from behind it. Now, if you watch a traditional SmackDown, it's similar to like the old Raw's War set where they have the video screen in the middle, 2 separate screens, and they come out directly down the center. Now, a lot of people want to realize that because they get so lazy that they just interchange them when they have Raw and SmackDown in the same city. They just, a lot of times this past week, they picked what was the SmackDown set. So when you watch Raw and SmackDown this week, it was the SmackDown set that they were using. The one difference, too, you also notice is the video board in which plays their videos. And we talk about laziness. They no longer have videos. It's just a graphic of their name.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, you used to have videos, but the Raw set has the inverted screen, while the SmackDown set has a screen that kind of comes out. So if you watch the Raw set, it's kind of like a curve, and the SmackDown set is more like a 3D television. But again, these are things that people
just
don't
not
even
enough
notice.
uniqueness.
Well, not
it's
enough uniqueness,
carbon copy.
but
That's
you
what it
probably
is.
don't realize it too, because WWE interchanges them because they also notice that you probably don't realize it. So when they have Raw and SmackDown in the same city, they just pick just one, and they just go both shows for that.
Until you mentioned it, I totally forgot that they're like every video now is just the name. Remember, I remember back
Bobby
in the day,
Lashley is just Bobby Lashley.
it used to be like a highlight reel.
Yeah.
Literally. Now it's just the name. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned that. Now
buying
I
the video
remember that
games,
now.
let's like buying SmackDown 2 for the PlayStation, the highlight of buying the video games or a highlight of going to the shows live was you get to see the full video, because when you watch on TV, they show the wrestlers on the camera. They don't show the video screen. So being there live was actually kind of cool because you'd get to see the whole video. Or buying the video game, for example, you get to see the whole video versus watching it on TV. So that was like an added bonus. But now there is no video. It just says Roman Reigns.
It says the name.
Just
Which
says
is
Kevin
weird
Owens.
because their
lazy.
production crew has to be bigger than ever.
Yeah.
Of course.
It has to be.
But
so
they do
there's more people doing less.
They just do the graphics now.
I mean, like the
That's
DX
what they do.
video is obviously one that's very remembered with the dogs running up to the fence and like X-Pac. It's funny because I remember the DX video has X-Pac doing the Suck It at a Raw that was taped here in Syracuse, and you can see if you like pause it real quick, you know, the layout, because the Onondaga County War Memorial looks a little bit different than a lot of other arenas. They used to have the old-timey banners hanging up, so you see like a UPN 43 banner hanging up while he's doing the Suck It during the DX video.
That's cool.
But yeah, they don't do that anymore. So I guess
They do these cheesy graphics now.
They
That's
do
what
the
they
cheese.
do.
So being live, there's really not as much excitement to be live at an event like a Raw or SmackDown as there used to be, because there used to be added things you could see. Now it seems like you see less if you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, you're not getting your money's worth. I don't feel like. I mean, a lot of the wrestling hasn't been great, anyways. But yeah, I mean, as a fan, like that was the one thing I look forward to is the production value too. You get to see a live show. You know, I mean, yes, you get to watch the wrestling, but you get to see a live event. You get to see, the pyro. You get to see the music video. I mean, I feel like WWE is kind of, I mean, they make so much money, but they've like really cheapened on the brand a little bit.
So piggybacking off what I just said about Bobby Lashley's video, and I was mentioning how he doesn't have a video, he just has a graphic. Bobby Lashley's manager, Leo Rush, has officially taken everything off of all his social media related to WWE. It seems like his time in World Wrestling Entertainment is done. What do you guys make of that? We've heard the rumors and the rumblings of his backstage issues.
He's had issues for a while. I mean, he had something. I think it was the Emma issue. When Emma got let go, he made something.
It was a really insensitive tweet
it was
about
insensitive.
her being released.
He's been in the doghouse since then, honestly. And I'm surprised he even made it to the main roster, because I felt like once you're in the doghouse and you do things like that, and you put somebody on the spot, especially on Twitter like that, usually you're gone. I mean, speaking of that, let's transition to Lars Sullivan. Do you guys see that stuff?
I got a $100,000 fine coming his way.
Yeah, you know what's funny? It was, the remarks were very, they were obviously very insensitive as well. But guess what? They fined him $100,000. They didn't suspend him. They didn't fire him. Obviously, that means they're gonna make a big push with him. So,
what do you make of the Lars Sullivan? $100,000. That's a lot of money for somebody who the average NXT wrestler makes between $80,000 and $150,000. Now he's not on the NXT roster anymore, but I mean he's just a cut above that, so he can't be making much more than that. So $100,000. That's got to be at least half his yearly salary.
It's garnished wages. I don't think they're going to take that all in one chunk. Completely insensitive what he said. However, I'm glad to see that WWE is not caving to social pressure. So they're not allowing these activist groups or anybody that has a say on the internet to kind of curve their product. As long as he's taking the proper steps, it was in the past. He's kind of atoned for it. He's owned it. He's apologized. If the locker room and the talent and the individuals that he has to work with can accept him, I believe that they should all be able to move forward. And it's nice. It's nice to see them. Yeah, Apollo Crews came out and said that he forgives them. He's accepted his apology.
That's the thing.
So that's one of those things is
now.
you can't. How far does the punishment go for something you've said in your past? You know what I mean? And WWE caves to social pressure, and I'm glad to see that they're kind of taking a stance. They're the punishment's odd because it didn't happen when he was under contract with them. So
it's their way of saving face. That's really what it comes down to. It's saving face. I mean, it happens in all league. It's all professional sporting organizations now. I mean, there was the kid from the Buffalo Bills. I mean, he said something that's sensitive. He was like 14 years old. Like he said something very racial, I believe it was.
Yeah, and it's funny too because
he was 14 years
Twitter
old.
and Instagram and these things have been out for a while now. When you think about it, when it comes to these athletes who are 21, a lot of them had it now going on at like 12, 11 years old. They had these social media accounts. You know, they didn't exist when I was 11 or 12 years old, but they did for some of these brand new athletes who are in their early 20s.
How we had flip phones, right? No?
Yeah. I mean, we could all get in trouble here for probably something we said on MySpace back in the day. But we'll move on. Finishing out WWE talk. Triple H upset with the booking. Now, a lot of people reading into some things where he was liking some tweets that spoke bad about Vince McMahon and the booking. What do you guys make of this overall?
Honestly, I mean, it's Triple H is eventually going to take over the throne. I mean, I don't think it's a non-issue. It's the internet wrestling community, they make these big deals about, oh, you like something of this and that. To me, there's nothing to it. There's no substance there. You know, Vince is not going to care. Oh, you liked something that somebody said about me that was bad.
It shows hope for the future though, because he seems to be
he listens to the fans.
Leaning towards he seems to be on our side. We see what he's done with the NXT product. None of us really have complaints with the NXT product.
Not at all. Nope.
We love it. So if he can take that when he does take over the reins for WWE and bring that to a bigger stage and utilize all that talent with a lot more eyes watching it, it would be great. To see him frustrated means that things eventually could take steps in the right direction. It's not all doom and gloom. And it's funny because they said a lot of where it comes from is he doesn't speak publicly about it. He moves throughout the company very cautiously with this unhappiness. So this is someone close from within.
A professional.
Kind of he's a professional, tried and true. But they said it seems like after a lot of events or after a lot of matches, things like that, they see him quietly backstage consoling like the talent. You know what I mean? So he's having those private, close talks with them. And that's what this leak is kind of about, is he sees the discouragement in the talent and he's kind of trying to keep them focused, keep them on track, and might understand where they're coming from.
So to finish out our wrestling news talk for this week, we're going to move on to AEW. AEW signed the deal. They're going to be on TNT for the first time since Nitro's last episode. Turner National Television and TBS and all the Turner National groups of networks will have professional wrestling on their air. It's going to be AEW. It's going to be on Tuesday night, as well. We assume the name is going to be Tuesday Night Dynamite because that's what they trademarked. WWE has come out and said that they still plan on having a show on Tuesday night, probably on Fox or on the USA Network. That's going to be like a recap show. I wonder how long that'll last against real wrestling. I mean, let's be real.
Won't last long.
What can you obviously pull out to talk about that's going to beat AEW, especially in their initial run? But it's official. They're going to be on television come this fall, right around the same time that SmackDown is moving over to Fridays. They've signed Earl Hebner. Is that a get, do you think?
Not really. Not really.
It's enough of a get where you're not focusing on the past. Do you know what I mean? He's done some big things. He's good at his.
He's the biggest referee in wrestling history, probably.
And he's good at his job.
One of them, Charles Robinson's definitely up there as well.
You think Charles Robinson?
That's Mini H, man. Come on, he's been everywhere.
Charles Robinson's been around forever. Hebner's been good enough where like you can pinpoint him into like WrestleMania main event.
He went to Impact. He was that good. He went to Impact.
Well, I mean,
that's the thing. Pre WWE, there's some steps that he made that kind of made his stock drop. You know what I mean? He's done signings at some very low-end conventions. You know what I mean? It wasn't hard to stand in line and meet Hebner for a while. And then the same thing, the Impact thing, it kind of he kind of lost his allure. You know what I mean? Because he was top tier WWE. You know what I mean? For a referee to have that kind of,
I don't buy stock in it. Honestly, I don't buy stock in it. I mean, no offense, it's a referee. He's not a in-ring competitor. So to me, it's just another name. I mean, speaking of other names,
do you think Jim Ross is a big get then?
I think it's a get. I'm not making it a huge deal. It's Jim Ross. I mean, that's a lot of people.
Jim Ross again, like Earl Hebner, he's also kind of had his stock drop a little bit by going to places outside of WWE. I mean, he's already done New Japan Wrestling and Ring of Honor and even some other stuff that's not even associated with the two of those.
So Conrad Thompson will be joining him.
Yeah,
which we needed to confirm because I had read it somewhere that wasn't. So moments before we went on the website, we checked. Conrad Thompson is a part of their broadcasting
team.
What
stinks about that is I'm going to miss the Something to Wrestle podcast that is going to be that's on the WWE Network. Him and Bruce Pritchard.
Yeah.
They're obviously not going to be together.
Well,
the
grilling JR won, the two of them. They're building chemistry through the podcast.
Yeah.
And now that might transition to the broadcast team.
It should be good in the booth. So
I'm gonna miss something to wrestle with. That was my weekly listen, but I really hope this grilling JR, because now we're getting JR's side of these things that have happened in the WWE, and it's nice to be able to pick his brain and have him be very candid about some of these major events or major superstars in the WWE.
Speaking of Conrad Thompson, I just want to say for the record, as of this recording, Ric Flair is doing fine. It was a normal procedure. A lot of people.
It was like a 5-minute scare, apparently.
Yeah, people were getting freaked out, and I was looking around just because I sent the group text.
Ric Flair. A lot of people said he was in like critical condition. He was going in for surgery, and then it's been kind of confirmed by people closer to him that it was actually a planned procedure that he wanted to get done before he went to Las Vegas.
And just to preface it for people that don't know, Conrad Thompson is his son-in-law, so I think he knows a thing or two outside of everybody else in the world.
So now we're going to move on to WWE's Money in the Bank this upcoming Sunday from Hartford, Connecticut in the XL Center, home of WrestleMania 11, probably the worst WrestleMania of all time when it was a Hartford Civic Center. It's crazy to believe that place is still standing, mainly because it's only home to minor league hockey, hence it should have never hosted a WrestleMania to begin with and only holds about 15,000 people at max. But it's this Sunday either way. Kind of the pseudo home outside of Madison Square Garden. Hartford, Connecticut's probably a second home for WWE being so close with Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right up the street, the headquarters. But a big pay-per-view nonetheless. We're going to go right through the card, get our predictions right down the line of what we think is going to happen. Let's start things off with the low end of the card. We'll start off with Roman Reigns against Elias. Elias in a one-on-one match. We haven't seen him do a lot of stuff, but now he's thrust into a match against somebody decent, Roman Reigns. I mean, I guess I would like to see him against anybody, but hey, here we go.
I'm excited for this.
In an actual match.
Because it feels like Elias is involved in an actual storyline that means something. You know what I mean? It might be a one-off or a throwaway for Roman, but the fact that you're keeping Roman Reigns out of the title picture, which means a lot to me. You know what I mean? He's on a good run. He's where he should be. WWE's not pulling the panic button, thrusting him right into the title picture. Let's see what else he can do outside of it. And now Elias, who everybody's rallied behind. We're all giant Elias fans. He kicks off our show for us every week. So
yeah.
To see him in something that's going to be meaningful, and he's just not a one-off getting his ass beat on Raw. You know what I mean?
Just
These throwaway matches, these comic relief segments. To see him in something that means something, I'll say it again, is big for me, and I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, to pick the match, Elias is not winning the match, I don't think. I think Roman's going to win it, to be honest with you.
I'm going to pick Roman as well.
Yeah, I think this is good for Elias. I hope this is a good push forward, because I mean, Roman Reigns did hit on it recently about Elias hasn't had any championship titles, so he hasn't even titles around his waist. So
that was the last meaningful thing he did, was chase the IC title with Rollins.
Yeah, yes,
and that was it. And then since then, like you said, he's been a comic relief.
I'd like to see him as like a mid card champion, like a United States or Intercontinental. That's where I'd like to see him go.
So moving on to the United States Championship, it seems like we've seen this match a few times ever since Samoa Joe won it at a SmackDown taping that I went to almost 2 months ago now in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Samoa Joe, the champion, against Rey Mysterio for the U.S. Championship. Where do you guys see this going down? Or how do you see this going down?
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say Rey Mysterio wins. I think something's gonna happen with his son. I feel like maybe his son's gonna come out and because I guess his son's been training and all this, and there's this whole thing with Joe kind of bullying him in the backstage. So to me, I could see his son coming out, Ray's son coming out, and maybe screwing Samoa Joe, maybe something like that.
I would go with Ray as well. He got that. He's been building up momentum with some of these victories as of late. The last one was pretty much a squash match when Joe just came out and kind of beat him around. It was a very quick match. So Rey Mysterio, he's proven to be quick. You know what I mean? I think it might be one of those sneak victories he pulls off. But his son's going to get involved somehow. There's been enough backstage segments where it's not going to.
I feel like they're planting a little bit of a seed there.
I'll go against you guys. I'll say Samoa Joe's leaving with the championship as we move on to the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. This one, it's a little murky because now we have Raw competitors, the Usos, going against Daniel Bryan and Rowan for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I see the SmackDown Tag Team Championship staying with Daniel Bryan and Rowan. One, because they just got it, but two, also because the Usos are on Raw. I don't know how you explain that if they win, but what do you guys say?
Yeah, I'm gonna go the same way. I'm gonna go with Daniel Bryan and Rowan. I think it wouldn't make any sense at this point. You just put the titles on them. It'll be a hell of a match. I feel like the Usos are gonna come up, just a hair short, and I think Daniel Bryan and Rowan are gonna pull they're gonna pull the wool over your eyes and do something behind the referee's back and get the dirty victory.
Exactly. If the Usos were to win, where do you really go with them from there? Are you going to start looking at condensing or unifying the tag titles? Are they going to do like a Becky two belts thing, and then are they going to have to appear on both shows? You know what I mean? And then what if they lose them to another Raw team? It just makes for cloudy booking.
Yeah.
And I think that Daniel Bryan and Rowan are in the right place right now for it. Maybe we'll get some eco-friendly tag titles out of the deal.
So move on to the steel cage match, and this is what you get after WrestleMania. You have the more traditional match. I guess it was still a no-holds-barred or false count anywhere match, but either way, you have the more traditional match at WrestleMania, and then you move on to some of the stipulations. That's what we're getting with Shane and The Miz. The rematch this time around will be inside of a steel cage. I see The Miz winning because he's the face, and I saw Shane McMahon get the victory at WrestleMania. I think just pretty much to set this match up.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be The Miz. It'll, having it in a steel cage is going to help, I feel like, for Miz to win. So, yeah, I go with Miz. I will say this. There will be one really good spot because Shane always does that.
Oh, it's a steel cage. You're getting a spot from Shane. And I have to say, out of all the disappointment we've experienced lately on both Raw and SmackDown, a little less on SmackDown, the thing that hasn't disappointed is the slow build with Shane and Miz. And I really think I don't buy Miz as a face. I think he needs to do a little more. They tried to oversell it with the segment with him and Roman. They brought Roman in to try and rub a little bit of the crowd off onto Miz. You know what I mean? That's a cheap, easy tactic to do.
Of course.
But Shane's really been keeping this feud alive for me. He's doing an excellent job. So I'm interested to see it. We're going to get a big spot. And like I said, this is a feud that I'm invested in.
And you got Miz winning?
I will absolutely, yeah. I couldn't see Shane winning. Miz has got to separate. The feud's got to come to an end at some point. So we're not going to get them for a third pay-per-view in a row.
I mean, we've seen it before, though. We've seen feuds go farther.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cena and Orton are headlining this year's WrestleMania still.
So we're going to do these kind of together as Becky Lynch, or Becky Two Belts, defends her championship against Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair. It would have been kind of interesting as a triple threat, kind of like all the gold on the line in a single match. But either way, there's two separate matches, one against Lacey Evans, the upstart from NXT, who hasn't really made a wrestling debut, so to speak. She's done a lot of cameos where she comes out, she waves her hand, and she leaves. But she got herself a match for the championship of Monday Night Raw. And then Charlotte, as we've seen a million times, against Becky for the SmackDown championship. Who do you guys see leaving with the belts?
Becky Two Belts is going to be walking out with two belts. Simple as that.
I see Becky going over with the Raw Women's Championship. I see her retaining. With the Fox deal coming up, I see Charlotte having to take one of those belts.
But do you see it happening now? I mean, the Fox deal, that's way down the line.
It's down the line.
Becky can't.
SummerSlam.
I mean, Becky on both shows, good for ratings, more than likely. I can't see her continuing to pull double duty. I think they need to spread the wealth around. You know what I mean? And there's got to be some sort of chase between her and Charlotte. I see Charlotte taking the SmackDown belt back to SmackDown. So I think she's going to split her wins.
So the Universal Championship on the line, AJ Styles.
Wait, who did you pick?
Oh, I guess I'm talking Becky Lynch. She's leaving both belts,
okay,
I think.
just want to make sure.
I do, though, say that it's going to happen sooner than later. She's going to have to separate the belts.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of when we had other people take, let's say Chris Jericho took all the gold 20 years ago now. But it wasn't long before, they had to separate that up and with the brand extension. So I don't see her holding on to both belts for too long. Kind of reminds me, though, speaking of all the belts, it kind of reminds me of when I think Stone Cold was world champ, Triple H was the IC champ, and then they won the tag belts at Backlash, so they had all the gold. Didn't last more than a month, though, before they lost the tag belts.
But it's still fun.
Yeah,
it's cool.
And I'm worried
it's a fun
because
month to have all the gold.
Lacey Evans is a star, 100%.
She is a star, but I don't think just yet.
I'm hoping it's not a clean loss. I absolutely see Becky beating her. I'm hoping for the sake of character building that it's not going to be a clean victory for Becky.
Lacey Evans has got star written all over it. She's still got a lot of work to do. I do see the star potential, though.
So the Universal Championship on the line, a dream match. I'm surprised they're giving it to us already. AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. I'd be happy with this being the SummerSlam main event. But either way, unfortunately, I see Seth Rollins winning this match just because it's so soon since Seth Rollins won the belt. That's what these pay-per-views are supposedly, after WrestleMania 4 for title retentions. So I see Seth Rollins winning with the belt. What do you see any surprises?
I don't see any surprises. I'm going to say Seth Rollins. Not unfortunate at all. I think Seth's going to hang on to that belt for a little while.
Do you think this would be the main event of the show?
If it's not, I'll be surprised.
It should be. This is This is a fantasy match. This is
They
absolute.
should've
This
saved
is
this for
absolute
WrestleMania.
fantasy booking in real life.
They should have done this. They should have made this the WrestleMania main event.
There's a lot of hype for this match, and there's a lot of weight on their shoulders to not disappoint. And
One place we're moving on, and when I talk to retention, I mean, this seems like a given, even though I'm a little disappointed. So if you're watching on YouTube, see I'm wearing my KO Mania shirt. So I'd love it to be KO Mania this Sunday over Kofi Mania, which came and gone. So I'd love Kevin Owens to be taking the belt against Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Unfortunately, though, as popular as Kofi Kingston is, and again, talking about what these after WrestleMania pay-per-views are for, I see him retaining the belt as well.
Yeah, Kofi's hot right now. He's on fire. I can't see him losing the title. It's gonna be a hell of a match. It might be up there for one of the matches of the night, but I don't see Kevin Owens winning.
I don't know if it could be up there for one of the matches of the night.
I think it's gonna be a good match.
Kofi's run's not done yet.
No, in that match, that's gonna be a good match. It's a clash of different styles. The physicality of KO and the athleticism of Kofi.
You
It's
see
gonna be
Sami
fun.
Zayn getting involved at all? I mean, I know he's in the Money in the Bank match. We're going to talk about it in a second.
I see it, and then for a split second, we're gonna be like, oh crap, Kevin Owens is gonna win.
Like I said, and I've said it, I want to keep those two as far away from each other as possible. That's the best thing that you can do for them because they've crossed paths. Whether it's friends, whether it's enemies, whatever the case may
Leave
be,
them alone for a while.
That was part of their problem. They grew stale together. Keep them separate. So I'm hoping we don't see Sammy.
Moving on to the Money in the Bank matches, we'll start with the women's match. It's just been announced that Alexa Bliss, she will not be in the women's Money in the Bank match due to injury, so her replacement has yet to been announced. But either way, you have Naomi, Natalya, Dana Brooke, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Ember Moon, Carmella. Who do you see, and obviously the person taking Alexa Bliss's spot, who do you see leaving with the women's Money in the Bank?
I'm going to go with Ember Moon. I think, normally I would go Bayley because Bayley's one of my favorites, but at this point, I think Ember Moon, it's time for a push for her. She's been kind of sitting in the dark, so to speak, so it's time to get her rolling, and hopefully she cashes in soon.
Carmella's been one of the most entertaining Money in the Bank champions in the history of WWE. I'm talking men or women. So I'm rooting for Carmella. I see Bayley winning.
I'm going to go with Mandy Rose here because what you were just talking about with Carmella.
Did you consult with Corey Graves about that first?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think it's time for Mandy Rose to get some sort of push. And you talk
she's
about
not
Carmella,
that good in the ring, though,
but
man.
Carmella,
Come
I mean,
on.
you can say the same thing about her.
Yeah, but
You
Carmella's
need
a little more
to-
refined.
See, title belts sometimes are what give these people pushes, and Money in the Bank is essentially a title belt. So it's a way of essentially giving them. I think the Money in the Bank actually is or women's or men's, is kind of like the IC belt, what it was back in the day. The IC belt was the passport to the world belt, as Macho Man once said. And I think that's what the Money in the Bank is. It's showing that you're not maybe ready to be a world champion, but we're ready to kind of give you something to do. Be more than just there, kind of change your character, change your purpose. And that's what they did with Carmella perfectly. I mean, Carmella had no right in being in a women's championship match. She could have not won a number one contender match. She couldn't have just fought for the title like Becky or Charlotte. She had to have some sort of gimmick to kind of put her there and kind of get her importance up. And that's what I think this is going to do with Mandy Rose.
Like you said, it's not just winning it with the WWE and it being entertainment. It's the entire universe that surrounds you and winning that briefcase gives you the opportunity to cut promos, to insert yourself into things, to almost
that
insert yourself into
deserve
things.
To be in.
So
Mandy
correct.
Rose probably doesn't deserve to be going against Becky Lynch at the next pay-per-view.
No, she doesn't.
But this kind of makes it so it kind of has to be done regardless of what you feel. This isn't like the Jinder Mahal situation where they kind of just inserted him into the championship match a few years ago. This is kind of a way where you're like, I don't think she deserves to be there, but what can we say? She's got Money in the Bank.
It gives you attention. It gives you TV time. It gives you a lot of things.
She can thank Corey Graves for that, by the way, because Corey Graves, every time she comes out, I mean, his head goes crazy. I mean,
when I went to the live event in Syracuse, I sat third row. And one of the things that impressed me the most about the Mandy Rose match was she worked like vintage old school heel. I actually have a photo on my phone. I'll show you after we go off. She took the turnbuckle off and exposed the ring and then did a drop toe hold on the ring. She was doing all kinds of dirty. She's grabbing the ref by the back of the belt. It was just old school, like territory days, what your typical or essential heel would do. And it was awesome work. And then I was waiting to see that transition to TV, and we didn't see it. So I don't know if she was just having fun and paying some homage to some old things. I don't know enough about her in her personal life to know if she is a wrestling fan, you know what I mean, if she has any roots in that. But it was really cool. So I mean, she has the ability to be entertaining because she was a highlight for me.
She's definitely entertaining. I feel like her in-ring work needs more work.
So we're going to move on to the men's Money in the Bank match, the final card here before we wrap up the show. The men's Money in the Bank ladder match has got Ricochet, Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, Finn Balor, Mustafa Ali, Andrade, Sami Zayn, Randy Orton. No Braun Strowman, as Sami Zayn won his spot this past week. So I feel we're going to see Braun Strowman maybe insert himself a little bit into this. But either way, who do you see leaving with the men's Money in the Bank?
Sami Zayn. I mean, I'll just go there. I think that, again, we talked about what happens after Money in the Bank, what happens with that briefcase. What better way to continue being Sami Zayn and taunting the WWE Universe than holding that briefcase captive and over everybody's head? When is his reign of terror possibly going to begin in the WWE for us fans with that briefcase? I could see some excellent promos coming from Sami Zayn holding on to that briefcase.
I'll just say this. I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre.
That's what I was going to go with.
I think Drew McIntyre is on fire. He's had a hell of a run.
I think he's had a hell of a run. But my problem with him, and this is why I think he's going to win, is he's starting to get, like Bray Wyatt or Rusev or any of those people where they're just getting not the win-loss record in their favor.
I agree.
They're starting to lose too much. So for him to be back inserted into why he deserves to be fighting for the championship and Seth Rollins and not say, do you ever even win around here? Get that Money in the Bank, and boom, it doesn't matter that you just lost 6 matches in a row, and then every time they put you in a WrestleMania match or a pay-per-view match, you lost every single time. Get Money in the Bank, it's like a fresh reason why you should be back involved.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. That's going to be my pick for match of the night. I think that's where it's going to go. If I had to pick somebody else, I'd like to see Andrade, but I think he's still a little.
WWE is very high on him.
I'm high on him too.
They're very. So am I. I enjoyed him much better in NXT, as we do with all the talent.
True.
And we haven't been able to see. I mean, he's put on some 5-star matches in NXT. I think he's credited with 2 5-star matches at takeovers.
Yeah, he's good. He's an in-ring tactician.
And really every one of his matches, even at pay-per-views, just kind of feel like a house show match. So I don't know if they haven't let him put the burners on yet and go full speed, but
he's my 1A. Honestly, Drew McIntyre, I feel like it's his time to shine. Andrade is going to be around for a while. He's a younger talent than Drew, so I feel like Drew's gonna win it.
As a fan of unobjectively, I'd go with you guys. I 100% want to see Drew win it. I'm going to say Sami. Just because
I say Braun Strowman cost Sami.
Okay,
I think
I like that. Okay,
yeah,
I'm with that.
So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the show. I'm actually going to put on Twitter, and maybe we'll put on Instagram, does Bray Wyatt make his official return to WWE outside the vignettes? We've been seeing a great vignette this past week on Monday Night Raw. We might talk more about that if he doesn't make his return of Money in the Bank. So we'll put that on Twitter to see if you think that he's going to be back in WWE outside the vignettes this Sunday at Money in the Bank. But either way, we will be with you next week. All the way to my left, that's Dustin Sadek. You can find him on Twitter at QStown Collect. You can find him on Instagram at QStown Collector. You can find the guy right next to me, Brandon Clements, at Icebreaker21, myself at KRock Jared. But most importantly, follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Heel to the Face. Follow us and watch us on all our platforms, from iTunes to YouTube to SoundCloud to everywhere a podcast is found. Monday Night Raw in Albany this week. I might be there in attendance to watch the fallout for Money in the Bank, but either way, we'll talk about it next week on Heel to the Face. Thank you for joining us. Till then.